The Harper family had dreamed of a fresh start. Their new home on Maple Street was clean, cozy, and full of sunlight. Everything looked perfect, but from the first moment they stepped over the threshold, something felt wrong. A certain stillness seemed to hang around the fireplace in the living room. Mr. Harper described it as a weird feeling, like the bricks were staring back. Mrs. Harper felt it too, and their son Jake kept glancing that way, curiosity etched on his young face. At first it was easy to ignore. They were busy unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, and wandering the creaky floors, exploring. But each time Mr. Harper passed the fireplace, his eyes would drift to the masonry as if it were calling to him. Something about the bricks wasn't right. It was subtle, the color too dark, the joints too perfect. Even Mrs. Harper conceded that it seemed too sealed. Jake, 9 years old, finally broke the tension one evening. "Mom, Dad," he said, looking from each of them, "doesn't that wall look like it's hiding something?" They all stared. The fireplace did. It glowed in the lamplight. And maybe Jake was right. That Saturday morning, before they even collected the final closing papers, something took over Mr. Harper. He woke early, determined. As the sun rose, he moved a stepladder to the fireplace, fetched a hammer and chisel, and began tapping on the bricks. Jake, sensing adventure, grabbed his phone and hit record. Mrs. Harper watched from the hallway, heart thudding. No one said a word. Nothing needed to be said. Brick by brick fell away. Dust drifted in the morning light. Jake filmed with wide eyes. After nearly an hour of chipping and scraping, Mr. Harper's hammer rattled against something hard. Not brick, not wood. Metal. He paused, then carefully removed the last few bricks, revealing the glint of tarnished metal embedded in the wall. A safe. It was old, sturdy, and locked. No combination dial, just a keyhole and hinges visible behind the bricks. They crowded around, breath shallow. Jake whispered, "Wow." The moment felt momentous. They touched the safe's cool surface, all three of them trembling. Over the next hour they tried everything: screwdrivers, pry bars, magnets, brute force. They even wound a tiny borescope camera through a small hole to peer inside, only to see darkness and dust. They paused to laugh tensely at Jake's suggestion that treasure or ghost gold might lie inside, but it was hopeless. The safe resisted them. Finally, Mr. Harper made a call to a locksmith. The man who answered sounded practiced, almost bored. He arrived mid-afternoon, tools jangling on his belt. He inspected the safe and frowned. "This thing has been opened before," he said, voice quiet. "Someone forced it, then sealed it again. See these weld marks?" He pointed. Mrs. Harper gasped. Jake looked alarmed. Mr. Harper swallowed, uncertainty nagging. "But," the locksmith said, "I can open it. That is, if you really want me to." They nodded, eager. By knife-edge light that evening, after painstaking work, the safe's hinges quivered, then gave way with a rasping groan. The door swung open. A hush fell. Inside the safe were old papers, tarnished coins, faded photographs, a small velvet pouch filled with gleaming gems, and, surprisingly, a newspaper from the year 1850, still crisp and perfectly preserved. They stared. Jake's eyes glittered with greed. "This could be worth a fortune," he exclaimed. But one object caught everyone's breath, a dark wooden box, its sides stained with what looked disturbingly like dried blood. They reached for it warily. Mr. Harper felt a chill run down his spine as he lifted it. It was heavy, ancient, polished dark like wet wood. Inside lay a single heirloom, a very old diary written in elegant French script. The air turned cold. Mrs. Harper stepped back, heart pounding. It's wrong," she whispered. But Mr. Harper carefully opened the diary. The first page, covered with thick sepia ink, started with, "Si vous lisez ceci, j'ai échoué." If you are reading this, I have failed. Even before translating, the tone was ominous. That night, Mr. Harper pored over translation tools. his laptop open in the living room glimmer of lamplight. The French flowed dark and deliberate. The diary belonged to a man named Pierre Dubois, who had lived in their house more than a century ago. He wrote of secrets, lies, betrayal, and a murder that stained the walls. Each paragraph grew heavier, darker. He described hiding the safe behind the wall, sealing up the fireplace to keep something locked away. He wrote of voices in the night, footsteps below the floor, and strange dreams he dared not mention in daylight. The final entry told of his last desperate act, revealing the safe, then masking it again, and expressing regret that he had failed to keep the truth buried. Mr. Harper closed the laptop and shivered. "I don't like where this is going," he said aloud. Mrs. Harper rubbed her arms. Jake looked pale. No one slept well that night. In the days that followed, unpredictable things started happening. Lights flickered, even with no storm. Shadows drifted across walls. The air in rooms felt heavy and oppressive, especially near the fireplace. The family's moods shifted. They argued more than usual. Mrs. Harper felt watched. Jake began having bad dreams. Visitors standing at the foot of his bed, whispering in a language he couldn't understand. He refused to go into the living room alone at night. Mrs. Harper confided her fears to her husband. Something was wrong, alive, angry in their house. They decided to call the police. 2 officers came, toured the living room, inspected the safe's open door, took custody of the diary, the wooden box, and the old newspaper. Weeks passed. The tension eased, but unease remained. They lived in controlled fear, glancing over shoulders and triple-checking locks. Finally, a detective returned with news that unsettled them further. He explained that the diary's account matched records of a century-old murder in the house. Evidence had disappeared, witnesses had died, and the case had gone cold, until now. The safe had contained hidden evidence, names, letters, possibly the weapon used. Pierre Dubois had covered it up, but left clues. Someone else had later forced the safe shut, sealing up the secret again. The detective said that because of the Harpers' discovery, it was possible to close the case at last, bring closure to a crime buried for generations. That revelation freed the house. The air lightened. Mrs. Harper slept soundly again. Jake's nightmares stopped by night 2. Mr. Harper no longer felt drawn to the fireplace. Instead, they found themselves bonding over dinner, stories, laughter. It felt like peace. Months later, the 1850 newspaper sold at auction to a private collector. The diary and wooden box were given to a historical society. The Harper family kept a few coins and photographs, artifacts, they said, not treasures. The velvet pouch of gems remained with them, considered family keepsake, albeit mysteriously left behind by Pierre Dubois. Most of all, they regained their sense of safety. The house on Maple Street no longer whispered. The fireplace stood silent. Occasional cold breezes in empty rooms reminded them of what had happened, but only as a memory, no longer a threat. The Harpers often spoke about that strange chapter of their lives. They marveled that their curiosity led to an old crime's solving, to justice for someone long deceased. The silver lining, they agreed, was that they emerged stronger, closer, and more rooted in their home than ever, and peace settled over Maple Street. But that peace carried a lesson. Curiosity finds secrets, some better left untouched. The Harper family had gone digging, behind bricks, behind history. They uncovered answers, but only after enduring haunting nights and trembling hearts. In the end, though, they found resolution and peace finding their home, and they vowed that some fireplaces are meant for warmth, not secrets.